Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got Crystal released Bloodline, and got Harem, Part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Mach1ne, link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. A man with a fearsome white porcelain mask stands over the village of Konoha of Fire Country. Red, vertical slashes run across each eye giving it a vicious look. Amethyst eyes lie beneath the white mask, a perfect blend of crimson and cerulean. His hair is wild and untamed, jutting out in spikes on his head. A ponytail falls down his back, reaching the small of his back. A bamboo hat sits on his head, the chin strap under his chin. He wears a high black coat, the collar covering the lower part of his face. On his feet is a pair of getas, and on his hands adorned fingerless black gloves. A katana is strapped to his perpendicular to his right shoulder, while a pouch of kunai wraps around his left thigh. The man hops off the branch, touching the ground like a feather, no sound emanating from his landing. He walks along the path, his hunter mask still clearly attached to his face. Soon enough, the gates of Konoha come into view, 2 Chunin-level guards at the entrance. The two begin to tense up, their eyes never straying from the approaching figure. As it inches closer, they can begin to see the hunter mask on the man's face, his amethyst eyes boring into their own. They can see the katana on the man's back, and they can tell by his posture that he means business. When he stops in front of them, he produces some papers, handing them over to the 2 guards. The 2 guards inspect it, their eyes giving a cursory glance while also keeping an eye on the lone figure. Giving one more look at the papers, they hand them back and let him through, both of them not seeing anything amiss with the papers. Walking inside, he draws stares from the passing bystanders, but he ignores them. He can see women staring at him in interest, but a woman passing by with red eyes piques him. Her attire consists of a red dress with the left sleeve cut off, while the right sleeve covers her whole right arm. Black and white bandages wrap around her curvy figure while her hair darkens in contrast. Her hair is unkempt and wild, giving her a wild look. Tape wraps around her hands, covering both wrists. Tape wraps around her thigh where the dress doesn't reach, while on her feet are a pair of red shinobi sandals. Her face is angelic, the features on them nothing short of dazzling. Her ruby eyes stand out on her pale face while her red lips are luscious and plump. 2 men also accompany her, and he recognizes one of them as Hitaki Kakashi, the copy ninja. He wears his leaf headband over his left eye to cover his Sharingan, while a blue mask covers his mouth and cheeks, exposing only his right eye. His posture is slouchy while his nose is stuck in an orange book. He wears the normal Jounin garb with a vest with pockets for scrolls and other various items. Blue sandals adorn his feet while long gloves cover his hands. His white hair defies gravity, spiking upwards towards the sky. The other man he recognizes, as well, but not as much, as Kakashi. The man's name is Sarutobi Asuma, the son of Sanding. A cigarette hangs out of his mask, the smoke wafting heavenwards. Spiking black hair adorns his head while a goatee manifests itself on his chin. He wears the same Jounin garb as Kakashi, but he also wears a white bandana on his hip with a red symbol outlined in a black circle. Rings wrap around his wrist, while his hands hold 2 trench knives, the blades short and curved. Tape wraps his shins, and a pair of blue sandals finishes his ensemble. He assumes they are all Jounin, and with his analysis done, he walks past them, all of them turning their heads towards the masked figure. He ignores their pointed looks, and continues to walk towards the Hokage tower, his blonde hair swinging back and forth in the wind. His black scabbard lies against his back, and twin dragons wrap around themselves along the scabbard of his sword. They all notice his white porcelain mask, putting him off, as a hunter need, but they can't just shake a strange feeling from him. They all look at each other for a second, all of them debating what to do. Should we follow him? The woman with red eyes asks. I think we should. He seems like a shady character, and he's moving towards the Hokage's tower, Asuma says. I agree. We can't be too cautious. Kurenai, cast A to cover us, Kakashi says, nodding for Kurenai to cast the. All 3 of them disappear, and run up the side of a building, trailing the mysterious man from behind. They can barely feel his chakra signature, it is that suppressed. They trail him discreetly, following his every movement. They watch him stop in front of the Hokage's tower, and look up, admiring the height of the building. His mouth moves as if saying something, but they do not catch it. They watch him walk inside, and they quickly follow, all of them moving past him to get to the Hokage's office. Standing at the end of the hall, they watch him walk down the hall, and converse with the ANBU outside. The voice is emotionless. I'd like to talk to the Hokage. The ANBU looks over at the man, and can feel the power rolling off him. Gee, go ahead. Thank you. The ANBU opens the door, letting the man through, and is quickly followed by the 3. They disperse, all of them hiding in a corner of the room. The Hokage is currently sitting behind a stack of paperwork, his nose buried in the latest Ika book. Kurenai's blood begins to boil when she sees the leader of their village reading the indignant orange book. The Sandaime himself, Sarutobi Hiruzen, is getting along in his old age. He wears a red and white hat with a red kanji on the tip. He wears the normal white Hokage robes, and his face is withering, the wrinkles and liver spots apparent. The door opens, breaking him out of his reading, and he looks up to find a fairly tall man, 5'8", looking at him with his head tilted. Sarutobi chuckles sheepishly while the pipe sticks out of his mouth. "What can I do for you, Hunter-san?" Sarutobi asks. "It's been too long, old man." The pipe drops out of his mouth, his eyes wide, and he looks up at the mask searching for the cerulean eyes. All he finds is the depths of his amethyst eyes, and it looks like he is searching his soul for something. His body freezes up, and he tenses. "And Naruto?" 3 collective eyes widen in their respective corners, all of them having not heard that name in years. Naruto nods, his eyes scanning the room, and landing on all 3 shinobi hidden in the room. "I know you've been tracking me since I stepped in the village. You can come out now." They all wince at the voice, and are surprised that they were detected. The unravels reveal the 3 jounin from before looking at him from the street. The Hokage coughs, his hand covering his mouth. "Kurenai, Kakashi Asuma, can you leave? This is important." A chorus of "hi" is his answer, and they leave, but not before bowing towards their leader. One more look pointed towards the masked man is given off by the 3 before they walk down the hall, their mouths running a mile a minute at the new information. No doubt the news is going to spread about the demon brat. "Is it really you?" He removes the mask, showing his face. His eyes widened again, taking in his appearance. "Minato. Yeah, I look like my father. Hanzo-sensei told me that." His mouth opens in an O, as the name processes in his mind. "Salamander Hanzo? The one and only old man. What do you think I've been doing all these years?" Sarutobi shakes his head, the news apparently shocking him. "You trained under Hanzo?" "Hi, he taught me all I know. He also took me away from this hellhole of a village. The only reason I'm back is because this place means a lot to me. It is the birthplace of my father, and I want to protect this place because it is my birth land. Make no mistakes, I am not saying I feel at home here. Maybe in time, Hokage-sama, but not now, not when I've lived in aim for the majority of my life." "I understand, Naruto. I assume you're here because you want to be a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf?" Sarutobi questions. "That is what I'm intending to do. I am under the assumption that the Genin test has already passed?" Naruto asks. "I'll have you tested by a Jounin panel. I'm going to assume that you are much stronger than a Genin," Sarutobi states bluntly. "Your assumption is correct, Hokage-sama. When will this take place? And what is the test?" "All in due time, Naruto. Be at Training Ground 8 at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Here's the key to your apartment." "It's good to see you again, Naruto. I thought I lost you all those years ago." Sarutobi hangs his head. Naruto finally smiles, baring his teeth. "I've missed our talks, old man. It's good to see you too. I'll be there. Take care, and here's a hint for the paperwork." Sarutobi perks up. "What?" "Shadow clones," Naruto says, chuckling while he leaves, and walks out of the Hokage tower. He slips on his mask, and walks outside. When Naruto steps outside, he looks up at the window of the Hokage's office. When he looks, he sees Sarutobi looking down at him, a smile on his face, as he watches the boy. They make eye contact, when Sarutobi mouths, "Thank you." Naruto nods his head, and turns back, and continues his walk down the street while people stare at him. He passes a group of 3 genin, and he recognizes one being a Uchiha. He walks by ignoring the looks of the lone Uchiha survivor. He disappears around a corner, searching for a place to eat. He walks into a fairly crowded dango shop, noticing all the shinobi milling around inside. Stepping inside, he walks up to the counter, and takes a seat next to a woman with purple hair. A tan trench coat sits on her shoulders with a mesh shirt under it. She wears a short, orange skirt, and ambu bracers on her shins. The woman looks up for a second, checking out the newcomer. She catches his eye, the amethyst color peering back at her own gray eyes. "What are you looking at?" Anko says. The man doesn't answer, choosing to stay stoic and silent. "I asked, what are you looking at?" Her tone is more indignant, more demanding. He tilts his head to the side, and says nothing. Returning his face to its original position, the waiter takes his order, and he sits silently, waiting for his food to come. Meanwhile with Anko, she is shaken by his answer, never having anybody answer her in that kind of tone before. She usually strikes fear in the hearts of many, but with him, she can feel no fear, just the aura of a person confident in their own skills. She goes back to her food, not noticing the man has taken off his mask. He begins to put the food into his mouth, chewing methodically and thoroughly, crushing the grains of rice under his teeth. He attacks each skewer, putting it into his mouth, and eating them clean of rice balls. He finishes 10 minutes later, while the other woman is still attacking her food. His sweat drops, and the least he can do for her is pay her back for his silence. Waiting the waiter over, he gives the waiter enough money to cover his food, Anko's food, and the waiter's tip. Nodding his thanks, the waiter runs off in a bustle, and heads back into the kitchen to cash away the money. He leaves the restaurant, walking towards his apartment to catch up on the sleep he's been missing for the last couple of days. Anko begins to finish up, waving the waiter over to get her check. Can I get my check? The man sitting next to you already paid for you. He said something about paying you back for staying silent, or something. He left some money, more than enough to cover for you, the waiter explains. Looking at his empty seat, she wonders who he can be when her best friend, Yuhi Kurenai, occupies the seat she is staring at. Hi Anko-chan. Binging on Dango I see. Yup, I got a free meal too, some guy paid for me, Anko says, using a toothpick to get anything between her teeth. Kurenai raises her eyebrow, but shrugs it off. Well, I have some news for you. Uzumaki Naruto is back in town. Anko looks over at her friend. Impossible. Reports said he died years ago. How is he alive? I don't know, but we saw him enter the village, and we followed him. We didn't know it at the time, but we figured it out when he entered the Hokage's office. Apparently the Hokage knew it was him, and sent us off, but not before we caught the name. Anko shrugs. So he's back. I can't blame him for getting out of here for a couple of years. Miss, would you like anything? The waiter says, eyeing Kurenai up and down. She looks over, and says disgustingly, no, I'm fine. The waiter walks off, his face turning red at the obvious rebuke. You know, Nai-chan, you didn't have to be so harsh. He was a pig. Didn't you notice him checking me out? Kurenai says indignantly. Hey, if I was a guy, I would check you out too, Anko teases. Kurenai rolls her eyes. So, do you know who paid for your food? I didn't get a name, but I know what he looks like. He wore all black, a porcelain face mask like Anbu, and a bamboo hat. He had purple eyes, and a long blonde ponytail. Anko shrugs, still messing around with the toothpick. Kurenai pales. Well, it seems like you've met Uzumaki Naruto then. Anko cocks an eyebrow. How so? That was him. That was what he was wearing when he entered the Hokage's office. After her statement, a chunin arrives at their location. Kurenai-san, Anko-san, and the Hokage requests your presence. Nodding their heads, they disappear in a swirl of leaves towards the Hokage's office. Walking inside the office, they meet Asuma and Kakashi chatting inside. Hey, do you know what this meeting is about? No, but I'm going to assume since it's so close to his return that it's about him, Kurenai says. The Hokage clears his throat. I'm pretty sure most of you know why you're here. Kurenai, Asuma, Anko, Genma, Guy, and Kakashi, you will be examining one Uzumaki Naruto, and decide what level he will be. Kakashi, you will engage him in a spar, and you will evaluate his skill level. I will be there to watch. Understood? A chorus of hi, is his answer. Okay, be at training ground 8 at 10 a.m. Dismissed. All of them leave, while he holds back Anko. Yes, Hokage-sama? Anko asks. Anko, you will be pairing with Naruto from now on. I need somebody I can trust to tag onto him, as he is still a liability. I don't know what he's been doing for the past couple of years. Watch him, and tell me if you see anything suspicious. This is an S-rank mission. Don't tell anybody, the Hokage stresses. He's only 15. He can't be stronger than any chunin. He's just going to be a liability on any missions we take, Anko protests. Anko, just trust me. Everything will show itself at the evaluation tomorrow. You can go now, but keep an eye on him. Looking at the old man, she can see that he is adamant about this, so she walks out after bowing towards the Hokage. Walking into the cool night air, she looks at the moon, admiring its beauty and simplicity. She continues to walk down the street, getting glares, and looks from the people passing by. She sticks her hands in the pockets of her trench coat and tries to whistle a tune to drown out the poignant looks from people. It begins to bear down on her, the eyes unnerving on her skin. When she reaches her apartment building, she walks in, and immediately runs to her apartment. Slamming the door shut, she walks into her bedroom, and tosses herself onto the bed, and begins to shed tears, tears of sadness, and tears of anger. They stain her bed sheets and clothes, they run into her mouth, the salty taste assaulting her taste buds. Watching from the crystal ball, he watches, as Anko breaks down, her sobs tearing at his heartstrings. The truth for bringing her and Naruto together is to help her get over her emotional problems and fear of commitment. He understands her better than most, maybe except for Kurenai. He knows how broken she is, being betrayed by the only person who seemed to care for her. Once he left, she broke, faking insanity, and hiding behind the mask. Sarutobi wishes he can break it, but no matter what, he can't seem to get her out of her shell of insanity. Bringing together two people who are broken sounds like a pain in the butt. But maybe, just maybe, they can fix each other. That is what he's hoping for. I hope you can fix her, Naruto, he whispers, smiling sadly to himself. 955 finds most of the jounins at Training Ground 8 to watch and evaluate the skill level of one Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde himself hadn't shown yet, but everybody else is there, even the infamously late Kakashi. Everybody chats, wondering what kind of skill the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune has. They all wonder what he's been doing for the past few years, wanting to know how he survived. The clock hits 9:59, and all of them look around, trying to spot the blonde anywhere. They look around, not seeing him, and they begin to grumble. The clock hits 10 sharp, and he appears in a swirl of flames, making all of the jounin cock their eyes at the specialized shunshin. His porcelain mask adorns his face, and his hair is left to itself. No ponytail, just a wild mane of golden hair. His amethyst eyes dart from person to person, evaluating and analyzing skill level. Satisfied, he nods towards the Hokage to start. We gathered here today to evaluate the skill level of Uzumaki Naruto. This will consist of a 1 versus 1 spar between Hatake Kakashi and Uzumaki Naruto. The match will end when one or both is knocked out or at my own discretion. Fighters, please meet in the middle. The two walk into the middle, eyeing and predicting movements. Kakashi takes a taijutsu stance while Naruto stands in a nonchalant posture, seemingly not worried about this. This confuses many, as people should not, and would not underestimate Kakashi. Looking at the two fighters, he worries for Naruto a bit. Looking at his posture, fighters, Hajime. They stand and stare, either daring to make the first move. This goes on for another minute or so before Naruto tosses a single kunai at Kakashi, who picks it out of the air and tosses it back only to find Naruto is gone. Looking around, he can't feel Naruto's chakra signature anywhere, making him worried, as Kakashi doesn't know where he is. A volley of kunai fly at him from the trees, and he backflips out of there, a trail of kunai spearing the ground in front of him. Another round of kunai comes at him from behind, and he manages to jump out of the way only to meet an elbow to the back, sending him to the ground once more. Quickly getting up, he turns around searching for Naruto, seeing nothing in the trees. A twig cracks from behind him, and he turns around, finding Naruto rushing him, kunai held in a backhand grip. Kakashi quickly draws a kunai, and blocks the backhand slash, and they begin to dance, kunai twirling, and dancing in a path of destruction. A few moments later, they are in a deadlock, their kunai pushing against the other in a battle of dominance, and then he smiles. Bunshin Daibakuha, clone great explosion, a voice rings out from the forest. Kakashi's eyes widen, as the clone begins to gather chakra. Dropping his kunai, he springs backwards trying to get away from the blast area. A moment later, the clone explodes, expelling a chakra-enhanced explosion that produces a bright light. Everybody covers their eyes from the flash of the explosion. Sadly for Kakashi, he is still in the blast range, and is caught by the tail end of the explosion. He is forcefully launched into a tree, shoulder cracking on impact with the tree. He gingerly makes his way to his feet, as the cloud of dust begins to dissipate to show a fairly large crater where the clone and Kakashi were. A single kunai with an explosive tag flies at Kakashi, and he quickly Kawamori, body replacement, out of the way. The explosive tag fizzles until the tag detonates, leaving the ground charred, and the tree in ashes. From a branch in a tree opposite the explosion, he watches the damage unfold from the explosion tag. A voice drifts into his ear from behind. "Hello, Kakashi-san?" Turning around, he ducks a punch to the face, and he hops off the branch, and back into the clearing, still defending against the flurry of punches, sweeps, grapples, and kicks. When Naruto throws a right hook, Kakashi sees his opening. With a side step, he watches, as the punch flies by his face, and he gets a punch into Naruto's gut, making him stumble forward. The clone then poofs out of existence. Everybody stares at the prowess of Naruto, who managed to shake up Kakashi with a mere clone. Not a moment later, another sounds out. Tsururyuden no Jutsu, water release, water dragon bullet. 5 water dragons descend towards Kakashi, each of them coming from a separate tree in the forest. Jumping into the air, he somersaults in mid-air out of the range of the water dragons. Quickly wiping his brow, he begins to descend towards the ground. Suetun, Tajua Suikoden no Jutsu, water release, multiple water shark missiles. 10 water sharks begin to form out of the puddles on the ground, and they all streak towards Kakashi. Quickly flying through hand seals, he yells, "Katan, Gokaki no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball." Spitting fireballs, as fast as he can, 7 of the 10 fireballs manage to block the incoming sharks, but 3 of them are still intact, and coming towards him. They race through the steam produced by the fire making contact with water. He times the moment perfectly, and, as they descend on his position, he jumps back out of range, simultaneously pulling up his Hitite. Looking around, he finds Naruto standing in the clearing, arms crossed, foot tapping on the ground and waiting for Kakashi. Naruto looks around, and spots Kakashi in the trees with his Sharingan out. Finally, the great Sharingan of Hatake Kakashi, the copy Nin. Things are starting to heat up. Naruto blurs out of vision, and Kakashi is barely able to see it with his Sharingan. Sensing a presence to his left, he manages to grab Naruto's foot, and throw him away, quickly following with a flurry of punches which Naruto dances around. not even moving to block them. Kakashi throws a quick sweep, managing to catch Naruto in the shins, and he backflips, landing on his feet 30 yards away. Making a single hand seal, he whispers, "Ninpu, Kokwanjyo no Jutsu, ninja arts, bringer of darkness." The world grows dark for Kakashi, but it is quickly dispelled with his Sharingan. Looking back at the spot where Naruto was standing, he finds him gone, and then he senses him from below. Quickly jumping away from Naruto's arm, he quickly flies through hand seals, Katan, Carrier Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. Holding his fingers to his mouth, he quickly exhales a fire dragon that races towards Naruto's rising body. Quickly forming hand seals, he shouts, "Suetun, Suijin Hiki, Water Release, Water Encampment Wall." A wall of water shoots up, covering Naruto from the fire. Quickly flying through another set of hand seals, he shouts something everybody gawks at, "Hayatan, Kakuria Bofusetsu, Black Dragon Blizzard." A black dragon with red eyes flies out of the water, heading straight towards the falling Kakashi. Kakashi, having not seen the hand seals for the, jumps out of the way of the dragon, and watches, as the dragon turns the solid patch of ground into a pale blue ice. He gulps, wondering what would have happened if he were hit by the wall of water around Naruto falls in the midst of him doing more hand seals, Katan, Fenikusu Enden, Fire Release, Fire Phoenix Missile. The flame shooting out of his mouth forms into a phoenix, chasing Kakashi around, as he lands, forming the same hand seals, as Naruto, Suetun, Suijin Hiki. A wall of water surrounds Kakashi, but little does he know, he's in for a surprise. The phoenix fire hits the water wall, sprouting into steam, as the water absorbs the fire. Harem, tearing dragon fierce tiger. The dragon and tiger of ice race forward, freezing the droplets of water it passes into ice. Kakashi, unaware of what he does, begins to form hand seals, and screams, "Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu." The water dragon begins to form out of the water, but is stopped short, as Naruto hits Kakashi's water wall. The wall freezes over, trapping Kakashi inside. Cursing himself into getting into this mess, he quickly makes hand seals, Doton, Dochu Igyo no Jutsu, Earth Release, Underground Projection Fish. Moving his way underground, he appears under Naruto, grabbing his feet, Doton, Shinjuzanshu no Jutsu, Earth Release, Double Suicide Decapitation. Pulling Naruto under until his head is the only thing left, he watches, as Naruto squirms, trying to get out of the hole. Flicking a kunai out of his sleeve, he puts it at Naruto's neck. Now that was an amazing display of, "I may have just learned a few. That still isn't enough, this spar is over." Hokage looks over at Naruto, and back at Kakashi, Shoushika. He is stopped by a shout, "Futon, Rankuden, Wind Release, Drilling Air Bullet." A gust of wind flies from Naruto's lungs, pushing, and throwing Kakashi into a tree, creating a big crash, as the tree falls over. Quickly forming hand seals, he gets out of the hole, and waits for the dust to dissipate. The cloud of dust finally blows away, revealing a standing Kakashi, right arm holding onto his left, as lightning chakra flows into a concentrated ball in his left palm. The sounds of birds chirping emanate from the ball of lightning, and Naruto smirks, most of them staring at him if he is insane. "Oh, the famous Raikiri. I was hoping you'd pull that out. Now I get to test one of mine." Everybody stares at him, including Kakashi, all of them interested in what he's going to do. Shoten, Kaijin Kesha Shuriken, Crystal Release, Giant Crystal Dart. Crystal begins to form around Naruto's right arm, and the ends come to a point, producing a giant dart on Naruto's right hand. All eyes go wide, never seeing this move before. Surprised? This is my Kekkei Genkai. It allows me to use crystal techniques like this one here. Are you ready for Kakashi? Kakashi looks at the gigantic spear of crystal, and shakes his head, trying to clear his mind of the gigantic spike in Naruto's hand. Charging at the same time, Naruto runs, the crystal point dragging across the ground, creating giant strips along the ground. Reaching up, he prepares to plunge it into Kakashi's Raikiri, but Kakashi jumps, running across the ice crystal. Naruto smirks, yelling Shoten, Sway Shotu, Crystal Release, Jade Crystal Blade. A blade of crystal forms on his left arm, and, as he plunges the Raikiri, Naruto brings up the crystal blade, blocking the Raikiri, making everybody's eyes go wide. With an explosion, the Raikiri blows up on the two, sending them both back in a big explosion. Black smoke rises from the clearing, wafting heavenwards, as people watch for who is the lone one standing in the smoke. The smoke begins to dissipate, revealing a single figure standing, and one on the ground, apparently unconscious. When the smoke clears, it reveals a broken porcelain mask lying at the feet of the man standing. The mask is cracked in half, the face lying upwards staring at its wearer. Panting heavily, he looks towards the Hokage who has his mouth open at the display of the Kekkei Genkai Naruto has. Naruto's skin begins to crack, pink flakes falling off of Naruto's skin, and onto the floor of the clearing. Everybody stares in amazement, as Naruto sheds what appears to be a layer of crystal around his body. Keshu no Yoroi, crystal armor. Everybody looks at the unmoving form of Kakashi, but they can still see his chest rise and fall in tandem with his breathing. As Shaosha, Uzumaki Naruto. The clearing is quiet, nobody believing what they just saw happen to one of the strongest jounin in Konoha. Turning towards the crowd, they now get a good look at his face, and women blush at his handsome face. It looks like the Yondame's, except he still has the 3 whisker marks on his cheek. His eyes are a deep amethyst, seemingly capable of looking into your soul. Recovering from his speechlessness, the Hokage coughs. Your evaluations? I, Yuhi Kurinai, nominate Uzumaki Naruto to Tokubetsu Jounin. I, Sarutobi Asuma, nominate Uzumaki Naruto to Tokubetsu Jounin. I, Mitarashi Anko, nominate Uzumaki Naruto to Tokubetsu Jounin. I, Gema Shiranui, nominate Uzumaki Naruto to Tokubetsu Jounin. YOSH, Uzumaki Naruto's flames of youth burn brightly. I, Mado Guy, nominate Uzumaki to Tokubetsu Jounin. Everybody's sweat drops at Guy's outburst while Naruto chuckles. Way to liven it up, Guy. Thanks for that. Guy gives him a thumbs up, a gleam coming from his tooth. You're welcome, Uzumaki-san. Obviously, since Kakashi is unconscious, I, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Hokage of Konohagakure, bestow the rank of Tokubetsu Jounin upon Uzumaki Naruto. Congratulations, Naruto. Sarutobi smiles. Thanks, old man. Thank you all, he says, bowing towards the Jounin judges. Naruto, see me in my office. Anko, you come too? Hi. Asuma, get Kakashi to the hospital. He is no doubt suffering from chakra exhaustion, and maybe a few broken ribs. You are all dismissed. With that, the 3 leave in their respective style of sunshine, leaving everybody to walk off, all of them whispering about Naruto's Kekkei Genkai. Once inside, the Hokage sits down in his chair, and Naruto and Anko remain standing. Congratulations, Naruto-kun, on your promotion. That was a great display of, and, your Kekkei Genkai lets you manipulate water and earth to change them into crystals? Sarutobi asks. Hi Ogigi, taking minerals from the earth, it allows me to crystallize them through water, and they harden to create crystal structures such as my Suisho to. I am the last of my clan, as I activated my bloodline when I was 10. I mastered it when I was 14, Naruto answers. When the council hears about this, they will no doubt try to facilitate your Kekkei Genkai through the Clan Restoration Act. They may force you to marry, and have children with girls from different clans to combine bloodline limits. Sarutobi sighs. Naruto snorts, making Sarutobi look up. If the council is going to force me, they are going to lose a very valuable Kekkei Genkai. I will not be coerced to breed with a woman I don't even know. That is just ridiculous. Besides, passing on my Kekkei Genkai needs more than me just fucking another woman 8 ways to Sunday. Naruto finishes. What do you mean? Sarutobi asks. The wife must either have an affinity for Suiton or Doton, and the husband must have the other. My father had an affinity for Suiton while my mother was Doton. The Kekkei Genkai came from my mother's side, as my father was Konoha's Yellow Flash. Once that has been established, there also has to be an emotional connection. To sum it up, I actually have to love another woman for the baby to have my Kekkei Genkai. Interesting, we'll see how the council will take that. For now, take these, the Hokage says, handing Naruto a Jounin pin and a Jounin jacket. Arigato Ogigi. Now, what is Mitarashi-san doing here? Anko shoots him a glare, growling. It's Anko, not Mitarashi. Okay Anko, what are you doing here? Hokage clears his throat. She is your new partner Naruto. You will work missions with her ranging from high C ranks to A ranks. Understood? Old man, I've never done anything less than a high B rank. I've done over 10 S rank missions for Hanzo, Naruto pleads. Anko's eyes go wide. Hanzo? As in Salamander Hanzo? The creepy looking dude with the rebreather? Naruto smiles at her description. Yeah, your description pretty much sums him up. And yes, I trained under Salamander Hanzo. Looking into Naruto's eyes, he can tell he is ready. Looking into Anko's eyes, he can see the determination, as well, and he sighs, relenting. Okay, I will give you the occasional, and I stress occasional S-rank mission if any NBU aren't in town for the mission. Thank you Ogigi, Naruto cheerfully says, stepping behind the desk, and giving the Hokage a hug. The Hokage shoots out his pipe, surprised at the blonde's actions. Thank you Naruto. Now you're dismissed, and you probably want to know more about Anko-chan I assume. Introduce yourselves over food or something. I'm sure you're tired after the fight with Kakashi. Hi, they chorus, disappearing from the room. Sighing, he smiles gleefully, reaching into his drawer, and grabbing his copy of Ika Paradise. Kukukuku, Shira you naughty girl. One-winged angel. 2 months have passed since Naruto joined Konoha, as a shinobi. At the moment, our favorite hero is in the middle of fighting a group of missing niners with his partner, Mitarashi Anko. Over the last couple of months, they had run a couple of ops together, their mission successes racking into the higher numbers. They had gotten to know each other more, their quirks, and their lives that they found eerily similar. Back to the mission with Naruto, he throws a hail of kunai at the missing nin, who easily jumps out of the way, tossing his own hail of kunai at Naruto's position. Dodging 3, and plucking 2 out of the air, he tosses them back, and pumps them full of wind chakra. The chakra shells begin to take a greenish color, as they fly through the air, anything with a foot getting cuts and scrapes from the wind casing. The missing nin, who is very, let's say, stupid, attempts to grab the kunai only to have his hands get cut in a number of ways. Dropping the kunai quickly, he drops his hand, and it hangs limply at his side while his right arm is holding up in a basic taijutsu stance. They stare at each other for a moment before Naruto disappears in a blur, making the missing nin go wide-eyed. He suddenly phases back into vision in front of the nin, his hand already cocking back for a punch. With a crunch, his fist connects with the other man's face, and he tumbles to the floor, his body lying in a crumpled heap on the ground. With a quick flick of the wrist, a kunai embeds itself in the man's throat, and the blood gushes out of the wound on his neck. A soft gurgling rings through the forest, the last sound the missing nin will ever hear. Severing the head from the body, he stores it inside one of the many storage scrolls he carries with him. Standing back to full height, he sets off in search of Anko, and finds her in the middle of a fight with another missing nin. As they go toe-to-toe, flurries of punches and kicks flying in every direction. They jump back from each other while unleashing a handful of kunai, and they all fall to a stalemate, the soft thuds of the kunai hitting the floor awakening the night. A moment later, the missing nin falls to the ground holding his throat, as blood gushes through the gaps in his hand. The sound he makes when he hits the floor sends all the birds flying from the trees, their black bodies covering the soft glow of the moon. Anko lands gracefully next to the missing nin, her trench coat fluttering with the soft wind. She shudders a moment, the wind glancing across her skin, and goosebumps begin to appear along her arm. With a shiver, she lowers into a crouch, and begins to cut off the missing nin's head when Naruto hears the whistling sound of a kunai in flight. He locates it quickly, and finds that not 1, but 5 are heading towards Anko. She isn't aware, as she is still cutting off the missing nin's head, and even if he calls out, she is done for. Putting his logical side away for the moment, he goes into action, his legs instantaneously moving, as his hair rustles in the wind. His black trench coat waves against his leg, the linen scratching, as he pushes his legs to move. He watches the kunai move closer, and he closes his eyes, pumping even more chakra into his legs. Please Kami, let me get to her. Apparently Kami hears him, and he finds himself pushing Anko out of the way, and the 5 kunai embed in his back, and he keels over, the blood gushing out from his wounds. He drops to his knees, his hand reaching behind his back, and Anko watches him fall. Looking back towards the attacker, she sees him smirk, and her eyes flare, and she discreetly throws a kunai. The missing nin is still snickering, and he does not notice the kunai, and it catches him in the throat, and he falls lifeless to the forest floor. Rushing over to a downed Naruto, she drops to her knees, and pulls out the kunai in his back, and watches, as the wounds begin to close, the blood clotting, and stemming. His eyes are still closed, and she lets out a tear. She knew they were getting closer over the last 2 months. They shared their fair share of stories, bonding over their childhood mishaps. They cried onto each other's shoulders when the memories were too hard to keep down. They often were seen together eating or just hanging out. They laughed, they jokes, and on one occasion, they were drunk. That night turned out to be the turning point of their relationship. Well, she was the only one who was drunk. He couldn't get drunk, or even buzzed because of the fox in his stomach. She was wasted, like bound to hell. They were out that night after a week-long mission, and they went out to grab a drink or two. That ended up with Anko downing a couple of bottles with Naruto taking a sip here and there. Flashback begin. Okay Anko, I think that's enough, he says, pulling her up from her seat. Why? I like sake, she slurs. He chuckles, come on, you're bombed as hell, and I don't want anybody taking advantage of you. Oh, you want me all to yourself, huh? Anko smiles. He can see the glint in her eyes, and he knows what she is going to do. Anko, your way too. Flashback end. Back to the present. Anko manages to get Naruto all the way back to Konoha, and he is now lying inside a hospital room. The beeping of the medical equipment brings him back to full awareness, and he notices a weight on his left hand. Looking up, he finds Anko slumped over in a chair next to him, her hand resting on his own. Her eyes are closed, and her face is contorted into a tight-lipped smile. He looks up at the ceiling for a moment, enjoying the feel of her skin on his. He shifts for a second, his hand skimming the bottom of her hand, and she stirs, her onyx eyes fluttering open at his touch. Taking in the white walls, she looks around, and down towards the blue-eyed blonde who is smiling at her. She returns it, and glomps him only to receive a little grunt, as his skin is still tender from his wounds. She realizes it, and releases him quickly, grinning sheepishly while scratching the back of her head. Sorry, Naruto-kun, she grins. He arcs an eyebrow at the honorific. What happened after I blacked out? Tossed you over my shoulder, and got you to a hospital. We're in Konoha right now. I already reported the mission, and he's giving us a week off, Anko happily says, wanting to spend her vacation days with the blonde. Nice, I can use some RR. I might go hit the hot springs later. Anko's eyes glaze over, remembering the time she caught him half naked. He cocks another eyebrow at the purple-haired Kunoichi's expression. Anko, you there? Huh, she instinctively says. He chuckles, nothing, you just got a faraway look there. Mind if I ask what you're thinking about? She burns a bright red, her cheeks a rosy red. No. He smiles, hi. When can I get out of here? The nurse said you should be good to go once you wake up. Come on, let's go get Dango. It's on me. You know, you like Dango way too much. He chortles while getting up and walking into the bathroom. She harumphs, crossing her hands across her chest. Standing up, she straightens herself out, stretching her muscles from the night of sleep in the chair. Cracking her back, she stands up and pads down the ruffles on her trench coat. Naruto comes back a moment later, seemingly refreshed with his foxy smile on his face. She stares at his face for a moment before looking down again. He notices and smiles. Come on, I thought you wanted to get some dango, he asks. She perks up and smirks. Of course, I can never pass out on some dango. As expected of a dango connoisseur. Damn right. He chuckles and leads her out, opening the door which she smiles at. Quickly following her, they stop at the front desk for Naruto's discharge papers. With a quick motion, the papers signed, they walk out into the starry night of Konoha. The chilly air surrounds them, the soft breeze caressing their skin. They walk in silence, their arms brushing against the others, as their arms swing along their side. A few minutes later, they find themselves inside the warm comfort of the dango shop. Jovial laughing and joking is heard in the back, but they ignore it and take a seat at the counter and flag down a waiter. What would you like, miss? The waiter asks. Give me 10 fruit dango and 15 pork dango. Anko smiles happily. And for the sir? Get me 10 beef please, he says, nodding his head. What would you like to drink? Sake. Water is fine. The waiter nods, scribbling on his notepad their order. He soon rushes off into the kitchen to hand off the order to the chef. A few minutes pass by, and the waiter comes back with their drinks, and they nod their thanks. They take a sip of their drinks, and sit, waiting for their order. Turning towards Naruto, no sake? Are you a lightweight? He tilts his head at Anko's barb. I just got out of the hospital. I don't think it will do any good with me downing sake at the moment, right? She rolls her eyes, spoilsport. He chuckles, and then the waiter comes back with their orders, and they dig in, eating with their hands. He soon finishes, and watches the purple-haired woman eat her way through all her dango. His sweat drops at the speed she devours them at, putting them into her mouth one after another. She soon finishes, patting her stomach, and using a toothpick to get any food in between her teeth. The night begins to draw on, as they converse about different topics. At the moment, they are on the topic of what is your favorite dango. Well, I really like beef. Pork is really good too, but I wouldn't say my favorite. Whatever. It's getting late, and I need to get up early tomorrow. I'll walk you home, Anko, he says, standing up. She stands up after him, and follows him outside into the cool night air, the wind caressing their tender skin. Silence consumes them, the obvious tension in the air, and one can swear they can hear electricity crackling around the two people walking down the street. They soon end up outside her apartment building, and they stop walking, opting to face each other. His height dwarfs hers, and she has to crane her neck to look up at him. It looks like this is my stop, Anko states rather lamely, wishing for this night not to come to an end. A smile comes on Naruto's face before he leans down, giving her a peck on the cheek. I guess it is. Good night, Anko. He walks off while waving over his shoulder. He disappears around a corner, and out of sight of Anko. He doesn't catch her bringing her hand to the cheek he kissed. She lets her finger linger on her cheek, the tingling of his lips still present on her cheek. Blinking a couple of times, she remembers she is still standing in the middle of the street with a big red blush on her face. Walking stiffly into her apartment room, she sheds her clothes, and falls onto the bed, her body relaxing into the soft linen. Her mind drifts off into euphoric dreams about a blonde with a past similar to hers, a blonde that understands her, a blonde that knows the real her, not the mask, but the one underneath, a blonde that she can learn to love, and that can love her back. The week-long vacation flies by, and they now find themselves back inside the Hokage's office. Alright, this is an A-rank assassination mission. You're to accompany Team 7, and 8 to the Land of Waves. The target resides in the Land of Waves. The Genin teams will have a different objective from you. They are escorting a bridge builder, but we have intel that there may be an A-rank missing nin working for Gato, your target. Accompany the two teams, and make sure they stay out of harm. Understood? The Hokage slides a manila folder over to them which Anko promptly opens. She smiles, and hands it over to Naruto, who smiles in turn, and the Hokage arches an eyebrow. Do I want to know? A rueful smile appears on Naruto's face, and he merely shakes his head. The Hokage sighs, and dismisses them with a wave of his hand. They both disappear in their own sunshine, Naruto leaving in a swirl of water, while Anko disappears in a swirl of leaves. They appear on the bridge, the genins jumping back at the vortex of water and leaves. Two figures appear inside the two vortexes, the sun shadowing their backs. Kurenai raises an eye for a second before relaxing, noticing the two figures. Tilting her head, she looks at Anko, who has a smirk on her face. Hey Nai-chan, Anko giddily says, making the genin squirm at her voice. Kurenai's sweat drops, but waves back anyways. Dragging Naruto along, Anko walks over to Kurenai. Hello Anko, I assume you're going on a mission? Kurenai questions, and Anko replies with a nod. We're going to Wave Country with you, Anko enthusiastically says. Kurenai and Naruto's sweat drop, and Naruto goes so far as to scratch the back of his head. Yeah, sorry about Anko. We haven't had a mission for a week. Anyways, we're on an A-rank mission that ties with yours. We'll be here to travel with you, but we'll head our separate ways at Wave Country, Naruto informs Kurenai. Will the genins be aware of your mission? Kurenai asks. Naruto shakes his head. Yes. Well, at least not the A-rank assassination part. He scratches the back of his head sheepishly while Kurenai smiles. I guess we'll have to introduce you to the genin teams. Kakashi will be here in a few minutes. Pervert is always late, Kurenai says while rolling her eyes. Naruto just chuckles and shakes his head, taking a seat and leaning his back against the tree. Anko, on the other hand, decides to have a little fun with the genin. Spotting the cocky Inuzuka boy, she discreetly takes out a kunai and wets it with her tongue. Kurenai and Naruto catch the glint in her eyes, and sweat drop. A sadistic grin appears on the face of Anko, and she tosses it, the kunai flying through the air towards the unaware Inuzuka boy. The Inuzuka boy feels a swoosh of wind pass his face, and then a pale red liquid falls from his cheek. A dull pain erupts on his right cheek, and his hands instantly go up to feel out the cut. Touching his wound, he can feel the liquid on his hand, and removes it, revealing the red color of blood on his hand. Turning around, he finds his sensei along with two other people by the trees. His eyes land on the figure leaning against the tree. Looking at him, he can see that his eyes are closed, and his hands buried in his blonde hair holding the back of his head. He wears a simple black trench coat with a collar wrapping around the bottom of his face. He wears a simple pair of black fingerless gloves and blue getas on his feet. A sword is strapped to his back, the hilt perpendicular to his shoulder. His face is what you can describe as feral. A pair of amethyst eyes peek out from the blonde hair, and 3 whisker marks blazon each of his cheek. The woman wears a similar trench coat, but in a tan color. A mesh shirt wraps around her body, and he can see some skin, but the trench coat covers her assets generously. Purple hair spikes upward in a pineapple ponytail, and an orange mini skirt leaves nothing to be desired. ANBU bracers and sandals finish out her wardrobe. Looking at her face, he can see the sadistic grin on her face. He blinks for a moment, and she is gone. A breath at his ear, and a tongue on his cheek makes him shudder. Dog blood. Not the worst, but definitely not the best, she says into his ear, making him shudder. When she says the words, she looks directly at Naruto with a smirk, while he retaliates with the roll of his eyes. When the words reach his ear, he yells, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" He begins to wriggle in her grip, but a kunai at his neck makes him stop. She grins sadistically, the kunai still pressing against his neck. Good boy. Besides, can a girl have some fun? Anko grins, making Naruto and Kurenai sweat. Kiba, on the other hand, is left thinking how nicking him with a kunai, then licking his blood, and pressing a kunai to his throat is fun. It isn't. Well, in his eyes. Seeing the fear in her student's eyes, Kurenai sighs, Anko, I'd appreciate it if you didn't give my team such a scare. Anko just grins in retaliation before removing the kunai, and disappearing a poof of smoke. You suck, Nai-chan, Anko pouts, making Naruto laugh. Anko shoots a glare at him, and he immediately shuts up. Like a light switch, her face breaks out into a smirk. He cocks an eyebrow before shrugging his shoulder while Kurenai laughs at the two antics in the background. A shy girl with blue hair and pale eyes looked over at 3, her voice shaky. Kurenai-sensei, who are they? She says, her fingers poking together in nervousness. These two, she says, gesturing to the 2 other jounin, will be accompanying us to Wave Country. They have a separate mission, and will be leaving us as soon as we get to Wave Country. For now, they will be joining us. Hinata nods her head before taking a good look at the blonde, and her face reddens, and she faints. Naruto cocks an eyebrow, and looks at Kurenai, his eyes wanting an answer. She sighs, and walks over to her unconscious student, and quickly arouses her to full awareness. Blinking for a few moments, and looking over at the boy again, a blush develops on her face, and turns her face away. Walking back over to the other 2, she sighs. She has confidence issues. Her father belittles her a lot, and with the way he treats her, I wouldn't be surprised about her confidence. I'm just hoping to try and break her out of it. Naruto nods and closes his eyes again, feeling the natural chakra around him. A/N, yes, Naruto is a sage, but for which contract? He smiles, his eyes still closed while the others look at him oddly. What is he doing? A pink-haired girl asks. Kurenai looks at her, and shrugs her shoulders, and reaches out a hand towards the blonde. His eyes shoot open, and a smile appears on his face. Sorry about that. I was meditating, he grinned sheepishly, trying to pass off his control of nature chakra as meditation. Kurenai and Anko appear to agree, and they nod their heads. The 6 genin just watch him, while all of them notice that he is around their age. Shino's eyebrow raises a little bit, but no other tell shows his surprise. Kiba, Hinata, and Sakura stare in surprise while Sai looks in indifference. A raven-haired boy standing by himself against the tree looks at the blonde, and notices the age similarity. His mind reaches back, and remembers Kurenai telling them that he is a. Unbridled fury builds up in him, and he stampedes up the group, his fist clenching at his sides. Naruto cocks an eyebrow at the raven-haired boy who he can only tell is a Uchiha. Do you need anything, Uchiha-san? The boy unclenches, and clenches his fist for a moment before taking a breath. Fight me, are his simple words. He looks at him in confusion. Did you not hear Kurenai-san tell you that I'm a jounin? Sasuke just glares at him with fury, and unclenches, and clenches his fist again. You're only our age. How are you already a jounin? And how come I've never seen you around school before? Sasuke shouts, fury lacing his voice. Kurenai and Anko glare at the raven-haired boy while Naruto puts on a mask of stoicism. I've worked hard to get where I am, Uchiha-san. Your brother did as well, so don't go around and think that I can't become one at the age of 15. Besides, as for the Ninja Academy, I graduated when I was 6. He lies, but manages to make it sound very real. He glares at the blonde in fury, and the passive look on Naruto's face only fuels the fire. Fight me. Naruto just rolls his eyes again. Apparently the Uchiha didn't get it when somebody didn't want to fight. Uchiha-san, I didn't want to fight before, so why would I want to fight now? Besides, it would be pointless, as we're about to go on a mission that will take up a couple of weeks. So, keep your mouth shut, and be a good boy. Do you think you can do that, Uchiha-san? Naruto says, his voice scathing, and scalding on the ears of Sasuke. Sasuke's glare narrows again, trying to intimidate the blonde only to have him yawn in his face. He fumes and storms off, the pink banshee shooting the blonde a glare. Don't talk to Sasuke-kun like that. He is a Uchiha, and the last of his clan. If he asks you to do something, you should do it. Naruto opens his eyes, leveling the pink-haired girl with his gaze. A chilling voice escapes his throat. Oh, a fangirl. I feel bad for Kakashi, an emo prick, a dedicated fangirl, and a soulless robot. Oh joy, this is a KI waiting to happen. Why don't you go comfort your boyfriend instead of assaulting my ears with your worthless voice? Sakura glares at him before following Sasuke, leaving the 4 genin to gawk at the jounin. He smiles at their expressions, and opens his mouth. Sorry about that. I don't really like people who think because of some name, they can have everything handed to them on a silver platter. Same goes for fangirls. Now, who would you 4 be? Walking over to the sitting blonde, they take a seat along with their Anko and Kurenai. Naruto starts off. Alright, I'll start this off. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. My likes are ramen, my summons, and a certain jounin. Eyes perk up at the last statement, but he pushes forward. My dislikes are arrogant bastards, pricks who can't see underneath the underneath, and people who look down on other people. My hobbies are training and cooking. My dream is to protect all my precious people and start a family. The others nod their heads, and when their introductions are over, Kakashi walks into the clearing with Tazuna following him. He looks at the group sitting on the ground, and then the 2 sitting across the clearing. He sighs, and walks towards the larger group. He notices the 2 others conversing with the group. What are you 2 doing here? Kakashi asks, and everybody looks up to find Kakashi looking down at them. We're joining you, as we also have a mission in Wave Country. We'll tell you about it on the road. For now, let's get this party started. Anko grins happily, pulling Naruto up along with her. She blushes, as she notices herself grabbing his hand, and she runs off to catch up with Kurenai. If Anko were to look back, she would have seen the blush on his face at the contact. After explaining the situation to Kakashi, they take off towards Wave Country. Kurenai and Anko walk at the front, the genin standing around Tazuna, and Kakashi, and Naruto at the end. Kakashi currently has his nose stuck in his orange book while Naruto hums a little tune to himself. Occasionally, Kakashi lifts his nose up, and looks over at the blonde, noticing the resemblance to his old sensei, the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. He can see the similar blonde hair, and the way the amethyst eyes pierce your soul just like the Yondaime. They continue to walk down the road when the group encounters 2 water puddles. The 4 look at the puddle for a second, already seeing through the pitiful signaling to the other jounins to let the genin take care of them. They walk on by seemingly oblivious. The two missing nin in the puddle begin to rise as they walk by, the grins discernible on their face from a mile away. With a quick swing of their chains, they rip through the two in the back, making Sakura scream. Seemingly, Anko and Kurenai also disappear, leaving the genin to take the missing nin on their own. What do you think they'll do? Kurenai asks, worried about her voice. She watches from the bush, as her students begin to attack one of the missing nin. I'm sure they'll be fine, Kurenai-san. Besides, if things get out of hand, there are 4 to help out, Kakashi says with a wave. Kurenai shoots him a glare when she feels a hand on her shoulder. She turns around to find herself staring into Naruto's eyes, a never-ending pool of amethyst. Don't worry, Kurenai-san, they'll be fine. The way they work together is good, and they play off each other's weaknesses. This should end in a couple of minutes, Naruto says, a smile forming on his face. His smile reassures her, and he finds her cheek very warm. A few moments later, the two missing nin are stuck to a tree by their chains, courtesy of Uchiha Sasuke. Detaching themselves from the chain, they split apart with Sai and Sasuke fighting one with Team 8 fighting the other. Sasuke and Sai manage to kill their opponent while Team 8 subdues theirs. Naruto smirks from his position next to Kurenai. Told you so, one? Come on, let's go greet your genins. Kurenai shoots him a glare before standing up and following his lead back to the path. All the genin are panting from the fight, and they all look up bug-eyed to find the 4 with smiles on their faces. Good job, guys, Kakashi says, his eyes crinkling into an upside-down U. He looks over the genin, and looks at them all panting. Alright, take a break. As for you, he turns to Tazuna. We are going to talk. The expression on Tazuna's face is one of sheer terror, and then Anko looks at the unconscious missing nin. May I? A sadistic grin shows up on her face, and Kakashi takes a step back, and nods his head slowly. Anko's grin widens, and she bares her teeth, and grabs onto the missing nin, dragging him into the dense forest. Naruto just shakes his head at his partner while Kurenai stares after her friend. Loud shrieks and screams can be heard from the forest a few minutes later, making the 3 sweat drop, and everybody else to look at the sound in fear. They shudder, as Anko walks back out with the missing nin barely breathing, and various cuts and blood stains embellishing his body. Anko sports a giant grin, one that makes people piss their pants, and roll over. The genin takes one look at her, and they turn away, their eyes trying to avoid the piercing gaze of the snake lady. What did you get from them, Anko? Naruto questions, his eyebrows cocking. He shudders, as he sees the sadistic grin appear on Anko's face. They're the demon brothers, C-rank missing nin from Kiri. Apparently they were hired by our target to get rid of him, Anko points at Tazuna. And there are 2 other missing nin in this operation. Their names are Momochi Zabuza and Momochi Haku. Naruto shakes his head, an A-rank missing nin from Kiri, and an unknown. How troublesome, Naruto questions before turning to Kakashi. Did you get anything off the bridge builder? He explained why, and who is after him. He paid for a C-rank mission because he had no money. This is probably a lower A-rank bordering regular A-rank missions, Kakashi explains. We should get the genin out of here then, Kurenai says, her motherly instincts taking over. Naruto shakes his head at her idea. They are all too mindful of giving up now. Only Sakura will want to back out, while all the others will rally to make a point. There is no use, so let them go. Besides, 4 should be able to take the demon of the mist, Naruto states, with conviction in his voice. Kurenai sighs in defeat. I suppose so. We'll have to report this back though. Kurenai-san has already been covered, Naruto says, whispering. Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning technique. A puff of smoke appears around the seal for the summoning. What do you need, Naruto-sama? A voice from inside the smoke asks. Get this message to the Hokage. As soon as you get back to Konoha, Naruto says, sticking his hand into the smoke. Hi, Naruto-sama. The cloud of smoke disappears in the direction of Konoha. What kind of summoning is that? Kurenai asks, while Anko smiles gleefully from behind her. Kakashi looks up from his book, and waits for his answer. Turning back to the other 3, now telling would be too easy. I'll show it soon enough. Alright, we should get going. We want to get to the boat before nightfall. The 3 others nod with his assessment, and the 2 Jounin sensei inform their teams of the updated news on the mission. They act just like the way Naruto predicts. Most of them, save Sakura, wish to continue the mission. Alright, Tazuna. Looks like we are continuing this mission for your sake. We still require the C-rank pay, but we will not force the A-rank pay, Naruto says, making the bridge builder sigh in relief. Naruto's eyes soften for a moment. We'll do our best to protect you, and get you back to your family unharmed. The bridge builder smiles. A newfound respect found for the blind, thank you. Naruto just smiles back before ushering him to join the group, as they take off. This time around finds Naruto and Anko in the back, discussing their portion of the mission. So, how are we doing this? I know we're sticking with the genins for a bit, and leaving at Wave, but what about Zabuza? Anko questions, tilting her head to look at Naruto. He takes a contemplative look, and then looks at her. Zabuza is definitely working with Gato, so it will be hard to infiltrate his base. I think drawing him out would be a good idea. I doubt he's going to pay Zabuza for his work. Most likely is going to kill him when the jobs are finished or he finds no use in him anymore, Naruto says, his analysis over. Anko mulls it over for a bit before giving her own 2 cents. Good idea. So we stick with the genin the whole time, and bait him out by using the bridge builder? Anko cocks an eyebrow. Naruto smiles, and gives her a single-handed hug, which Anko blushes into. He lets go, and Anko pouts at losing the feeling of his arm on hers. They continue to walk until they approach the boat that will take them to Wave. Since there are only so many seats, Anko and Naruto opt to walk on the water next to the boat instead. A thick mist begins to roll in, covering the water with a white fog. They soon make it to the other side of the river where the fog is just as thick. They all hop out of the boat, and continue their trek through the dense white mist, and then a whooshing sound can be heard. Kakashi yells, "Duck!" and drags down his team with Kurenai doing the same. Naruto pushes Anko down while pulling out his sword, and intercepting the flying blade with his own katana. He swats it into the ground, the head of the blade burying into the ground. A voice erupts through the mist. 8 points. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, heart. 8 points if struck will leave you dead in mere minutes. The voice cackles for a moment before disappearing inside the mist. 4 pairs of eyes narrow, and Kakashi yells out, "Protect the bridge builder, this is way beyond you. Let the 4 of us handle it. Go now!" The 6 genin scramble into formation, all of them holding out a kunai in front of them, their eyes showing fear. "Looks like I have to go through all of you. So who do we have here?" The voice says through the mist. "Hataki Kakashi, the copy nin. The Genjutsu mistress, Yuhi Kurenai, the snake mistress, Mitarashi Anko, and a no-name jounin. What a ragtag group this is. Momochi Zabuza, a ranked missing nin from Kiri, supposedly the leader of a failed coup d'etat on the Mizukage of Kiri. Master in the art of silent killing," Naruto states blandly. "Oh, so one of you knows me, huh? This will be a pleasure." The now revealed Zabuza laughs before he feels the steel of a kunai at his throat. He blinks for a moment before the slide of steel presses against his neck. He shatters into drops of water, and it splatters across the ground. The real Zabuza watches from a tree, amazed at the speed. He didn't even notice the blonde moving, and he wonders how he can see through the mist. "Hello Zabuza," a voice says behind him, and he turns around, catching the face of the jounin. The mist quickly dispels with a shout of "Kaze no Yaiba, blade of wind." The most rapidly dissipates, revealing Zabuza standing on the water. His eyes go wide, as the man behind him lands gracefully on the ground. Looking at his face once more, he notices the same features. The blonde hair, amethyst eyes, the signature clothes, and sword, and he whispers, "Ikihane Tenshi, one-winged angel." It is loud enough to hear, all of them turning to the sordid face of fear on Zabuza. "Who is that?" Kurenai asks, wondering what the man can be talking about. Zabuza's eyes believe the fear lying in them, and he turns towards the 4. "Are you serious? You didn't know that Ikihane Tenshi is traveling with you? S-rank nin from Amigakure with a flea on sight order? Fuck Gato, I'm fucking out of here. Haku, we're getting the fuck out of here. Move!" Zabuza yells, running across the water before a masked hunter nin begins to follow him. The genin begins to move to pursue, but a glare from the 4 makes them stop. Kakashi then turns to Naruto with a questioning look. "Who are you?" Naruto sighs before taking out a bingo book, and tossing it to Kakashi. Kakashi catches it, and looks up at Naruto with a confused expression. "Turn to the aim section," Naruto says. Kakashi does, and his visible eye grows wide, and he drops the book, his hands shaking. Anko and Kurenai wonder what can make Kakashi go like that, so Anko picks up the book, staring at the entry under Ikihane Tenshi. Her eyes grow wide before giving it to Kurenai, and she drops the book. The genin watches in rapt attention, the information of an S-rank nin among them very intriguing. Finally recovering from his shock, Kakashi shakily says, "You're the one who destroyed more than 1,000 shinobi in the 4th Great Shinobi War of Amigakure." Naruto nods his head before sighing, "We need to talk about this later. For now, let's get him home. I doubt we're going to get any more opposition from here on out." Anko immediately says in a quiet voice, "Why didn't you tell me? I thought you trusted me, Naruto. We're partners. I told you so much about me, and you neglected to tell me about this? Why?" Naruto turns to see Anko with her head down, and Kurenai glaring at him. He sighs before walking over to her, and pulls her into a hug before Kurenai can do anything. He whispers in her ear, his voice soft, "I didn't know what you would think of me. You've become an important person to me ever since we've gotten to know each other. I'd rather sacrifice my life if it means you are able to live. If word were to get out about you knowing me, people would come at you to get to me. I'd rather not put you in danger. That is why I kept it a secret." His voice is soft and soothing, pleasing to her ear. His warm breath tickles her earlobe, and she rocks in his arms. Kurenai watches, as her best friend allows an actual man to hold her, one that doesn't hold any malice or hidden agendas. Anko notices the hesitation in his voice, and the message behind his words. Leaning into him, she whispers into his ear, "What are you trying to say to Naruto-kun?" He takes a deep breath before continuing, "I guess what I'm trying to say is, a shout stops him from finishing, and he looks towards the 6th genin. Sasuke has his fist clenched again, fire in his eyes and an angry expression. With the moment broken, Naruto drops his head onto her shoulder, and grunts into it. Anko stares daggers into the boy, and lets out enough killing intent to make him want to piss his pants. Combining with hers is Naruto's, a more malevolent one that ensures nightmares of the highest degree. Sasuke begins to back away, his eyes revealing his fear. All the genin watches, as the Rookie of the Year begins to shake from the concentrated killing intent. "That's enough, we all still have a mission to do," Kakashi says, looking at the 6th genin. Naruto grunts again, and Anko's face saddens for a moment at missing his confession. With one last glare at the Uchiha, she breaks away from the hug, and gives him a sympathetic look which he returns with a sad smile. "I really want to rip him limb from limb right now," Naruto mumbles, making Anko giggle. He finds the sound very refreshing and soothing, and a half-smile appears on his face. "Come on, Naruto-kun, we still have a dictator to kill," Anko says, pulling Naruto towards the already moving group. He smiles, and lets her drag him towards the group. They soon catch up, the genin giving him scared looks while the two jounins look at him in a new light. A very jovial man that can kill with the bat of an eyelash. Truly dangerous. When they reach the group, Kurenai pulls Anko away from Naruto, and sends him an apologetic smile. When the two are alone in the front, Kurenai turns to Anko with a smirk on her face. "Was he really going to say what I think he was going to say to Anko-chan?" Anko can feel her cheeks heat up, and a blush develops on her face. She looks over at her best friend, and gives her a sad smile. "I don't know what he was going to say. That Uchiha bastard interrupted us, and I missed it. Ugh, damn brat, if he weren't the pet of the council, and a shinobi of the leaf, I'd rip him in half." Kurenai looks back at Sasuke, who still has the broody face on. "You know, Anko, I've never seen you like this before. Enamored over a guy, a very hot guy at that," Kurenai says, a blush developing on her face. Anko notices, and smirks before smiling again. "I know, I've never felt this before. Whenever I'm by him, I just feel safe and wanted. He treats me like an equal, and he understands how I feel. He can see the real me, and get past the one I show in the public. My heart soars, and beats quicker every time our skin comes in contact, whether it be a brush or a hug. I just feel so right in his arms," Anko dreamily says, relishing in the feeling of his arms wrapping around her body. Kurenai just watches Anko's face, as it transitions through different emotions, and she wonders if the blonde really can be all Anko wants in a person. Anko all of a sudden smirks. "Don't think I forgot about that blush, missy." Kurenai glares daggers at Anko, who laughs, then her smile grows deviously. "He's mine, unless you want to share him." Anko's eyes twinkle in mirth at Kurenai's dumb expression. Kurenai's eyes go wide before whispering, "What? You know the CRA? He needs multiple wives, and I'm wondering if you want to get in on this." Anko smirks, as Kurenai's eyes glaze over. She mulls it over before pulling out of her trance. "I don't know Anko. I don't even know him. How can I trust him? He didn't even trust you about his identity in the bingo book," Kurenai whispers. "He's afraid, you know." Kurenai cocks an eyebrow. "He's afraid of what people will think of him when they hear about what he's done. He has always been labeled a monster, a demon of the village, and his insecurities make him lack trust in people." Kurenai nods in understanding. "I can understand him. I don't know anything about him. Just talk to him, Kurenai. He's a fairly astute individual. A lot better than Asuma or Kakashi." Kurenai blushes at the former. "Yes, I know about Asuma's little crush on you, but trust me, Asuma has nothing on Naruto." Kurenai stays silent, mulling over the information about the blonde. "Maybe I should get to know him better. If Anko can trust him, why can't I?" Kurenai thinks before putting it away later though. A blonde in the back of the group sneezes, and draws the attention of the 6th genin, and he grins sheepishly. "Someone must be thinking about me. I hope it's Anko." Anko sneezes. "I hope Naruto is thinking about me." In the Hokage's office, Sandaime is slacking on the paperwork to read Ika. A swirl of leaves appear in front of his face, and he puts the book away, the smile on his face forming. Apparently the other person doesn't return the smile. A silver-haired man with a green shirt with a red vest on top appears in front of Sandaime's desk. The kanji for oil sits on his forehead protector, and his silver hair cascades around the side of his headband. His face is passive, fire in his eyes. "Care to explain to me why you never told me Naruto is alive?" Sandaime gulps at the passive, emotionless voice of Jiraiya that is far from the normal Jiraiya. "I can explain. Make this quick. I'm 5 minutes from going on a rampage, Jiraiya says, fires dancing behind his eyes. Taking a deep breath to stabilize himself, he begins. Moving into position, a voice says over the radio. Roger that, I'm in position. Get ready to move. On 3, another voice says, this one being much younger. 1, 2, 3, go. The younger voice yells. Hordes of armed shinobi begin to descend on the meeting of the opposing force. Kunai and shuriken rain down on them, the steel blacking out the setting sun. Screams of pain and terror erupt from the group, and they all scramble in desperation to get away from the rain of weapons. Moments later, bodies litter the ground, their blood running together to create a massive stream. A lone figure watches from the top of a tree, surveying the damage. His blue eyes and the carnage let loose from the salvos of kunai and shuriken. Barking into his radio, clean 'em up boys, good work. Then a yell erupts through the microphone, and he winces, as his eardrum is assaulted by the high pitch of the scream. Barking into his radio again. What's going on down there? Give me a sitrep. The angel is H here. Run! The man screams through his radio for it hits the ground, and shatters. Cursing under his breath, he jumps from his vantage point, and locates the chakra signature of the angel. Rushing towards it, he pulls out his katana, the black blade gleaming against the shine of the buried kunai and shuriken. He soon locates Angel raining paper on a group of his men. Their screams of terror and pain assault his ear, and he watches, as her paper rips them to shreds, their organs bodies spilling to the ground. Spitting at the ground, he quickly makes hand seals, Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu, water release, water dragon bullet. The rain begins to dance, the drops molding together to create a massive dragon of water which quickly descends on the still-turned angel of Amigakure. It crashes upon her, and he watches in rapt attention, not believing that she can be killed so easily. The water splatters to the ground, her body nowhere to be seen. A moment later she appears, her body assimilating from paper. A pair of angel-like wings begin to form from paper, attaching to her back. He looks at her figure from the ground, as she hovers steadily in the air. He looks up, and catches her bright purple eyes with his own amethyst. He looks up at them, and notices that they don't hold an aura of malice or deceit. They are the eyes of a woman who is trapped in a downward spiral ready to break loose, and fall to the ground. His arms drop from their loose stance, and fall to his side, and she tilts her head to the left minimally. Why are you doing this? He asks out of the blue, stunning her for a second before putting her face back into a passive face. She mulls it over for a second, her brain tinkering, and working for an answer. To bring peace, she answers. She watches his eyes, slowly getting lost in the endless maze of amethyst. They seem to go on forever, the depth never ending. His mouth opens, and a chuckle escapes his throat, the raspy voice jumping into her ear canals. Peace? You call this peace? He says, waving his hands at the broken battlefield. Blood splatters the ground, swords stick out of the ground, the hilts swaying in time with the wind. Kunai lay buried to the hilt in the softening ground, and shuriken dig their pointed spikes into the brown dirt. You wouldn't understand. You are merely just a boy caught in a war over his head, Naruto scoffs, and his mouth opens again to let out a humorless chuckle. He shakes his head from side to side, his chuckling striking a nerve in Konan. Wouldn't understand? Why wouldn't I understand the mindless carnage that rages around us at this exact moment? How can this world be in peace when so many before us have fought, and lost fighting for the same thing? How many people will have to put their lives on the line to see it happen? As long as human beings exist, there will never be peace. There will always be hatred, greed, and lust, he says tonelessly, making her flinch at the emotionless tone he uses. Stealing her now quickly dissolving beliefs, she rounds on him. Yet you fight. What do you fight for? Tell me? If not for peace, then for what? She questions him, her voice moving before she can give thought to her voice. He looks directly in her eyes and says with conviction, I fight to protect the people I care for. I may work for Hanzo, but I've learned how to retain my humanity unlike my sensei. We, as humans, have emotions. We will become mindless killing machines if we don't acknowledge our emotions. Take your leader for example, bringing peace to a land ravaged by war by causing suffering? Taking a deep breath, he quickly continues, suffering only causes more suffering. Pain only causes more pain. Hate only causes more hate. Your leader puts his entire being into a plan that will self-destruct in his face if he continues forward with it. It will cost the lives of many, and aggravate that many more. He calls himself a god. What kind of god can watch as his disciples mindlessly die at his own hands to bring peace? What kind of example is that setting for those in the future that come after him? What can they say about a man that brought peace through pain, fear, and suffering? They only follow his example, bringing peace the only way they know how, by causing suffering which is in no way a form of peace. Do you see his ways, the flaws in his reasoning? Konan's confidence wavers for a moment, taking the words of a 13-year-old boy. Shaking her head once, she questions, how do you know so much? You are barely what? 13 years of age? Yet you know so much of the human world. Tell me, how do you know? The words pan out from her mouth, her curiosity overpowering her senses at the moment. His eyes twinkle for a moment, the years of combat and training returning in full force. He opens his mouth and quietly says, you could say, I've been forced to grow up. I've grasped the psyche of human beings, knowing their works and whatnot. I can tell you have your doubts about your master's plans, just by the way you are now hovering in the air, your body slightly bobbing up and down. I can read people, it's just who I am, and the effect of being forced to grow up so early. Her eyes saddened for a moment, thoughts of the boy losing his childhood, being forced to learn how to kill at such an early age. Living in a place like Amigakure can do that to you. She watches his face, seemingly passive, but she can see the fire alight behind the pupils of his cerulean amethyst eyes. They seem to crackle, pop, and spark with intensity, the orange flames burning brightly. Why are you telling me this? She asks. They stay silent for a few moments, letting him contemplate his answer. The wind whips around them, their hair swaying in tune with the wind. The wind howls against their eardrums, the sound deafening, yet they hear each other with perfect clarity. A few minutes later, he lifts his downtrodden head. His eyes are laden in determination, shocking her with their intensity. I wanted to tell you this because I think you deserve a second chance. His words shock her to her very core, the fire within her that dimmed so long ago beginning to spark and burn slowly. She whispers out a measly, why? Her voice is raspy and heavy with emotion, the first time she has shown them in almost over a decade ever since the death of Ihiko. Looking at the boy once more, she can still see the strength of his gaze unwavering. His mouth opens again, answering her question. You ask why? I did this because you are only doing this for the sake of your leader. You only follow him because he is the last thing you have, and believe in. I'm giving you a second chance by believing in me. Believe in me, and I will be able to take away this world of sorrow. Just believe in me, and trust me. His voice is fueled by passion, an emotion long lost on the blue-haired woman. She watches his eyes burn even more, the fire behind his eyes becoming a roaring inferno of passion and strength. She can see the hidden strength and graces the way he uses his words, stringing them together to give her a very idealistic look on her now shattered beliefs. How can I trust you? How do I know you will not turn your back on me? She questions, her voice beginning to waver again. He looks at her with conviction, and he drops all his weapons, his kunai pouch and sword dropping to the ground in quick thuds. That's how, is his simple answer. She looks at him in a new light. Having the guts to drop your weapons in complete trust of your enemy is something that is not heard of. But looking into his eyes, she can see the unbridled truth in his words, no hint of deceit or malevolence playing in them. Her mind struggles to choose a side, the one that the blonde has shown her or the one that her oldest, merely acquaintance now has shown her. Who can she trust? This young boy or the person she has followed in her own life? That one that she has let dictate the last decade of her? With that thought, she comes to a decision, one that even surprises herself. I will put my belief in you. I can see in you the determination to end this madness of war between Hanzo and my leader. I have been living a life that is dictated by the man that I once called my friend. You have opened my eyes to this true nature, a man with an obsession to bring the world to his knees. I will do what you wish. Konan complies, shocking even herself with her outburst. Naruto smiles, his teeth showing, and baring his fangs. Good choice, Konan-chan. You have made a wise decision. I will not dictate your life, and you may go about this any way you like, but I wish you to stay with Akatsuki and spy on them for me. I will find you a year from today every year for an exchange of information. Until then, Konan-chan. Wait, she shouts, her voice easily rushing through the air. What is your name? He smiles, and simply says, Uzumaki Naruto. Pleasure meeting you, Konan. Your beauty is dazzling. Until we meet again, goodbye. He disappears in a swirl of water, leaving nothing behind but a puddle of water where he once stood. Her hand feels her cheek, the warmth pulsating under her hand. He simply called her beautiful, and added the suffix, chan to her name, and she was this flustered? It is understandable after all. It has been so long since somebody has given her affection, and this has been close enough. Sighing to herself, she surveys the field of dead carcasses, falcons, and vultures diving to feast upon the rotting corpse of humans. Her face turns into one of disgust, and this only furthers her belief in one Naruto Uzumaki. I will not fail you, Naruto-kun, she whispers before disappearing, and leaving behind the dead bodies to the scavenging birds. Hanzo turns around, finding his apprentice behind him with a ragged look. His hair is askew, the blonde hair haggard. His clothes are ripped in several places, some just being giant holes. Get out of here, Gaki. You're no match for this guy, Hanzo shouts, trying to keep himself steady on the gigantic salamander. But Sensei Hanzo cuts him off with a glare. No, Naruto. Get back to Konoha. I'm pretty sure your father and your mother want you back there. Don't worry about me, but carry on the legend of your father and the salamander contract. Now go, and make me proud, he shouts before turning around, as the gigantic salamander lights up one of Pain's summons. The ground shakes, and the summons roar, the sound deafening to those who can't stand such loud noise. Naruto winces, as the salamander sustains a cut to his left leg. Get out now, Hanzo shouts, as begin to fly around the battlefield. With one last look, Naruto takes off in the opposite direction, paying homage to his sensei's final request. He runs, as fast as his legs will take him, becoming a blur to those who can't keep up. He soon leaves the confines of Aim, the city now being plowed down by the gigantic summons. He forces himself to keep going, not looking back, as he runs away from his home. He stops a few hours later to catch his breath. After a few minutes rest, he begins to create hand signs and forces his palm into the ground. Seals beginning to spread from the middle. A giant puff of smoke appears, and the figure crashes most of the trees around it. Naruto-chan? The summon says, as the smoke clears. Naruto looks up into the eyes of the Salamander King. Jushi. Is he? Naruto trails off, afraid to let the sentence end. I'm sorry Naruto-chan, he's gone from this world. Naruto nods, hanging his head, and letting a single tear drop out of his eye. He wouldn't want to see you like this Naruto-chan. Remember, his last wish was for you to carry this contract with pride Naruto-chan. Naruto looks up into the boss summon's eyes, before nodding his head. He did, and I will honor his wish. Thank you Jushi, Naruto says, bowing his head to the Salamander King. That's the spirit of Naruto-chan. Call me when you need me again. Goodbye. And until next time, the boss summon leaves in a puff of smoke, leaving Naruto alone again. Naruto sighs before lying his head down inside the tent, and manages to doze off without dreams for the night. Opening his eyes, he lets the sunlight into his eyes for a moment before blinking rapidly to dispel them. After a few minutes of staring at the ceiling, he sighs, and hops out of bed, and heads into the shower. The warm water washes over him, the sound of the shower the only thing that he can hear. 15 minutes later, he walks out with his clothes on, a simple black turtleneck, and black A&BU style pants. He pulls on some black fingerless gloves, and straps his sword to his back. He then pulls on his getas, and attaches his kunai holster to his right thigh. Checking himself over, he deems himself ready, and steps out into the hall, the house still silent. Snores can be heard through the walls, most of them coming from the boys' rooms. Creeping his way downstairs, he does so silently, no noise from his soft footfalls. He silently slips into the living room, discreetly opens the front door, and walks out into the clearing in front of the home. The lake glistens to his left, tiny little gems shining in the light of the sun. He stands there for a few moments before he feels a presence coming from the house, and walks out in the clearing. She lets out a long yawn, and covers her mouth, alerting him of who it is. Good morning Anko, Naruto says, flashing her a grin. She glares at him before yawning again, not even bothering to cover her mouth. Come on, I want to get out of this depressing country. Let's get this asshole, and get out of here, she says. Hi, let's get going. Let's walk around shall we? Naruto says, walking off, and quickly followed by Anko. They walk around town, trying to gain any information they can from the locals. An hour later they finally go through all the shops with very little information. Looks like we're on our own here Anko, Naruto sighs, looking at the glistening sea. Check the coast. I assume he'll be closer to those areas, as he runs the shipping company. Let's scout the area for a bit for any possible locations, Anko says. Alright, I'll check west, you get east. Meet north in an hour. Alright, see you then, Anko says, jumping away at a quick pace. Naruto then takes off, as well, his clothes rustling in the wind, as he jumps from roof to roof. An hour passes, and finds Naruto and Anko conversing on a roof across the way from Gato's base, patrols around the base. 15-minute intervals. Anko nods before setting her sights back on Gato's base of operations. How do we get in there? Naruto's mind begins to work, bouncing ideas around in his head. Let's observe for now. There's so little information to work on at the moment, Naruto says, his eyes gazing over the castle-like structure. Anko sighs before lying on her stomach, her hands holding her head up. They stay like that for a few hours in silence, the exception being Anko's complaints. He just smiles whenever she does, and looks back towards the castle. Alright, I think I've got it, Naruto says out of the blue. Finally, I thought you were a genius, but that sure did take you a while. Oh shut up. Alright, I've noticed that patrols switch off every 3 hours. On the next patrol swap, we're going to head in through that window. He points to the window on the east that brushes against a couple of trees. Once inside, we'll search room by room, kill any goons you meet. Remember our objective is to kill the leader. Grab any information we can use, and any money we can take to save Wave. Anko nods. Patrols swap in 10 minutes. Head over to the trees now. Once 10 minutes pass, and the guards begin to swap places, they take off, their movements quick and silent. They leave no trace of their existence, and they make it to the tree rather quickly. Naruto silently opens the window, motioning for Anko to go in first. Jumping inside, she has a kunai ready, and set to strike. As she hops in, she lands with a small thud, her arms poised, and ready to react to any threats. Seeing the room clear, she motions for Naruto to go in. Stepping inside, he leaves the window open just in case they need an egress point. Moving over to the door, Naruto opens it, and looks down the hall, and sees no one. He begins to go door to door, ducking his head in and out to check for any. Moving down the hall, he embeds a couple of kunai in the face of some lower-level grunts before stalking down the hall with Anko bringing up the rear. Motioning for her to stack up, he nods his head, and turns the doorknob that leads him into a vast room. The room itself contains very little, just a simple desk with papers strewn all over it. A man sits behind the desk, and his eyes duck up at the unfamiliar faces. Who the fu he is cut off, as a kunai lodges in his throat, sending him backwards over his chair. He lands in a heap, the blood staining the floor red with his crimson essence. Moving over to the desk, he begins to gather important documents on exports, imports, timetables, and other things. Sealing them in storage scrolls, he beckons for Anko to follow him. They make it back to the same room with little resistance, meeting only one thug on their way there. A kunai embeds into his throat, and he lands on the floor, both of them dragging him into an empty closet. They hope back out the window, Naruto closing it, and then they hop off towards the village, the information they have safely tucked away. They make it back to Tezuna's house late at night, the house completely plunged into darkness. They stop outside the door with smiles on their faces. Mission accomplished. I'll give these papers to Tezuna tomorrow, and he will take over Gato's shipping company. Quick and easy. Anko nods. Yeah, I'm going to go to bed. I don't know about you, but I'm dirt tired. Good night. She walks away, picking the door's lock rather easily, and letting herself in. He begins to go through the familiar hand seals of the Kuchios no Jutsu. The same seals begin to develop, and in a puff of smoke, a tiny salamander in a maroon color emerges from the smoke. Handing over a scroll, he tells the salamander, "Get these back to Konoha, give it to the Hokage, and tell them we'll be back the next day." The salamander nods its head, and slithers off, its body and tail swinging side to side as it moves. After the salamander moves out of sight, he opens the door in the same manner as Anko, and walks over to his bedroom, taking off his sword, but not bothering to remove any of his clothes. He slips inside, the duvet covering his torso for the night. He closes his eyes, and succumbs to the darkness of the room that feels so inviting. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.